Ladies and gentlemen, President Tony Preckwinkle.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. I think this falls under the category of being drafted, huh? Our guest today is Cook County Treasurer Maria Pappas. She's been in the job for almost 20 years, 18 years. She collects and invests and distributes $18 billion a year in real estate taxes on behalf of roughly 2,200 taxing districts within the county. She's instituted a number of changes in the office to improve efficiency and make the office more friendly. And in addition to her public service, she's an attorney and holds a PhD in counseling and psychology from Loyola University. I'm very grateful to her for her help and support as we've worked to transform county government. Please welcome Maria Pappas.
Thank you, President. And once again, remember everybody, you've got those blue forms on your table. So if you have some questions and so on that you would like to have the Treasurer address, please fill them out. Treasurer Pappas?
So, good afternoon, and thank you, Tony. I mean, it's really been fun working with Tony at the county board. You have to remember that my tenure started with Phelan, and then it went to Stroger, and it's between the three of them. Preckwinkle's been a pleasure. So. I'd like to acknowledge the presence, and seated to my right is a very dear friend of mine who knew me when I came to Chicago from West Virginia in 1972, and that's Peter Parthenis. Peter, would you stand up? So Peter looks very unassuming, but the truth be told, he's actually the inventor and distributor internationally of the first ever Yitos machine. So give it up for Peter. Before I go any further, look, I mean, you're only as good as the people that you surround yourself with. And there are a number of people here from my staff today. And this presentation and everything that I do and the information that I'm given is because they are able to assemble it. So I consider them the brightest and the best. And to all of you who are here today, a couple of tables, thank you so much. So, I really had a big debate with myself when I got up this morning, and I was saying, you know, should I wear I had two dresses picked. One was red and one was blue. So I tried on both of them, and I thought, you know what? That is a bad political message. So I went back to the closet, I found a white sweater, and I said, you know what? Christmas, Snow White and the Dwarfs, I'm going to City Club. So in 1998, I assumed the office of treasurer. And as Tony will tell you, it is the 16th largest government in the world because under this county of Cook sit 2,000 other governments. And in 1998, we had 250 employees, 6 offices, $30 million worth of uncashed checks on the floor that had been sitting there for 2.5 months, no phone system, no website, no financial audit, no lockbox, no wire payment system, no email system, no bank branches. We had one mail opening machine. And for the 250 people, we had 6 386 computers. And everyone else had a typewriter. So if I had today all of those 250 people still working in my office, my budget would be roughly $40 million. We have downsized. We're down to 1 office, 72 employees, and our budget is $12.9 million. Yes! I'm going to steal some water from somebody, though. Is there water around? Yeah. Thanks. Thank you. Yeah. So in 98, there were a couple of ways to pay, and now there are 9 different payment methods. You can go to Chase or other community banks. There are approximately 570 different banks that you can go to and pay your taxes. Bank branches in Cook County, since we instituted this, have taken in 13 million payments. We have a lockbox. That means you mail in your payment, it hits a post office box here in downtown Chicago, and at this lockbox, we have taken 10.3 million payments. As soon as the payment comes in, it's imaged, and the next day, that image shows up in the Cook County Treasurer's Office. So if somebody calls and says, "Did I pay?" we can tell them the next day because we've got a copy of your check. Mortgage companies no longer come into the office to pay and no longer mail in their payments. We have set up a wire system where they come in online. The interesting fact about this is we went to Springfield. So every time they come in to view a duplicate bill, they pay us $5. So every year we generate from these mortgage companies and banks $9.5 million. So this office is almost completely self-funded based on this $5 fee. 19.6 million times mortgage companies and banks have paid online. You can go to our website and you can pay online. 3.6 million people have paid online. 78,000 people have paid by credit card. And tax buyers who've purchased something at sale have 403,000 times paid subsequent taxes online. Now, this is a great statistic for those of you who are as old as I am. If you remember, there used to be a line that wound around the county building. It was like a snake that just went around Clark and all the way over to LaSalle and back. So when we came in, on a yearly basis, 403,000 people walked into the county or the satellites to pay. The satellites are gone, and as of yesterday, on a yearly basis, 25,000 people only come to the county to pay. I think that's pretty good. So, yeah, you should applaud. So we have a new paperless customer service app, and I'd like for you, Tim Mater put this together from our IT department. It's just really nice. So this is what's happened. This is what happens if you go to your iPhone.
In 2016, the Cook County Treasurer's Office implemented the first phase of a paperless customer service system. The complete system will provide scanning, imaging, and storing of electronic documents, files, and data. As a result, the office will significantly reduce the need to retain hard copy paper documents. This will allow tracking of documents by property index number, or PIN, for quick access to information by Treasurer's Office employees for providing seamless customer services. The new system will also allow us to provide email notifications to the taxpayers for all requested information. Now, let's see it in action. Beverly is a Cook County property owner who recently
Beverly's
visited
here.
the Treasurer's Office to discuss an issue that she was having with her property taxes. As she entered the office, she was greeted with a friendly smile by a customer service representative named Maritza, who asked how she could be of assistance. Beverly explained the reason for her visit and provided appropriate documentation pertaining to her issue. After a brief review, Maritza scanned the documents, making them viewable on her computer. She then asked Beverly for her email address so that the Treasurer's Office could notify her when the issue had been resolved. The documents and information that Maritza copied into the system were automatically placed into queue. After the issue was resolved, Beverly received an email notification from the Treasurer's Office, letting her know that it was taken care of. This is just another example of the efficiencies implemented in the Cook County Treasurer's Office.
Hey, 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 hey. So we had no website when I came in. I mean, we literally had no website. And I can tell you that since we put it together, We have had 49 million people visit the website. That's 400,000 visits a month. And the most interesting thing about that is what you just saw, 355,000 people have used the phone to get the information. But the most interesting thing is that in Cook County, we have 103 spoken languages. So you can go to our website, punch a button, and it'll show up in any of those 103 languages. This is what's interesting. We have 21 languages up on the website. People would say, you know, like, why are you doing that? Well, one of the things that you want to get rid of is translators. You don't need people at the counter translating, and then groups of people coming in from various countries and languages to have things explained to me, because property tax system is extraordinarily complicated. Ethnic brochures have been downloaded 403,000 times. I mean, that's just an amazing statistic to me. And the largest number are in the Polish community. The Poles own more property than anyone else in Chicago. So we spend a lot of time working there in outreach. We used to have letter openers. We don't have letter openers anymore. So we have an email system. So if you email me and you say, how do I get my duplicate tax bill? Our email system picks up duplicate tax bill, sends you an answer, but we never see your email. And we've done that 132,000 times. If you want a copy of your duplicate tax bill, what happens is you can go online, tell us that you want it, and it gets sent to you. Remember I said that we had 6 386s and everybody had a typewriter? Well, now everyone has a computer. So if you're in the phone room or the counter or in the IT department or in the finance department, and you want to know something about a piece of property, you punch in this 14-digit number, which is your property identification number. This is the portal. And a 20-year history on that shows up. Any place in the office, so you don't run to find an answer by going to microfiche or opening up a filing cabinet. We're working on paperless. We believe that within 2 years, there won't be any filing cabinets left in the office. So I want you to applaud that. I think that's great. So the warrant books are on 3.5, and they're the 20-year records of the property tax system. They're called warrant books. They're on 3.5. They're big, huge black books, and everybody goes up there and writes in them what's happening on that particular piece of property. So we started an ambitious project, and we scanned almost 5 million documents in all these books. So the warrant books, by the year 2031, will no longer exist. Everything going forward is electronic. There are no handwritten entries. I see a lot of people from the title companies here, and they're really happy about that, because what used to happen was people would go in and write whatever they wanted and sometimes tear out the pages, so there were really never any official records. By the way, by the year 2031, my dad just died, he was 95. I should still be in office then. That's a subtle way of telling you that I'm running again. So, you know, you have to like what you do. You have to really like what you do. And I have to tell you, I love this office. This office has given me the opportunity to use all my psychological skills, which are way above and much more measured than my political skills. It's given me the opportunity to use my legal skills. But thirdly, it's really given me the opportunity to move into a new age, which is this age of technology. I mean, I have 70 people left. I walk into my office, 35 of whom are in the IT department. In 1998, if you had told me that I was going to have 35 people in an IT department, which then they didn't even have an IT department, I wouldn't have believed you. So let me tell you how my office goes. I mean, I like walk in the morning. If I walk through the IT department, I mean, each person has 3 screens. I mean, they don't even look up. I mean, they don't talk to each other. They don't talk to me. So, I mean, what a great job. Half of the people that work for you only do what you tell them to do, and they don't talk to you. I mean, who wouldn't want this job, right? Okay, so we used to have a tax sale that took 6 weeks to complete. Every time there was a sale of property, we would have a room like this, all the tax buyers would come in, and there would be an open outcry, and the auctioneer would say, you win. Now the tax sale's done in 3 days. You submit a disc, you say what your bid is, an outside vendor comes in, mixes up the numbers, decides who the winner is, and we have sold 172,000 pins online. We work with the Recorder of Deeds office, who has allowed us to get electronically 172,000 name changes. That's amazing, because we used to get pieces of paper with name changes, and then we would write them and enter them, and they would get lost and they would be wrong. So this is a great stat. Every time, and twice a year until this program was instituted, people double pay on their taxes by $30 million. So the bank would pay and the homeowner would pay. The husband would pay and the wife would pay. The ex-wife would pay and the current husband would pay. I mean, you know, $30 million every time, double payments. So we would then have to go and figure out who it was. And I mean, we had this huge refund department, which was much downsized. So why? If I pay and my husband pays, if he tries to pay, he's stopped. We call it the stops program. He can't pay. So we have stopped close to 230 million, I think 272 million of duplicate payments. So that doesn't sound like a lot, but in the business world, if somebody pays you extra than finding them and stamps and letters and returning it, it's a huge deal. So we got the idea, and with Tony's help, this was really with Tony's help, let me just tell you something. The way the county works, I mean, most of you know how the city works, but let me tell you how the county works. You can have a great idea, but if the president of the Cook County Board doesn't think it's a good idea, it's a bad idea. And I really like Tony because she thinks I have good ideas. And I'm going to tell you, she's never really said no to me about anything. So this was one of the things that she really helped me with. And it's actually the first ever nationwide to be done. It's called DDO. DDO is the Debt Disclosure Ordinance. So this is why this happened. So I start early on, my first 8 years, I'm a county commissioner on, in the single member districts on the lakefront, and then I end up in the treasurer's office because nobody wants me on the board anymore, and they figured if they made me treasurer, I'd shut up. And I'd be so busy straightening things out, I wouldn't bother anybody. So that's really how I got to be treasurer. But the most commonly asked question that I have, whether I'm in the suburbs or in the city, is, why are my taxes going up? So I went to Tony, and this debt disclosure ordinance allows all 2,000 taxing districts to submit their financials to us on a yearly basis. And so in there is information on total debt, and in a little bit you're going to find out the latest bit of information. But the current total debt is about $131 billion. And the average debt per city household is $85,000. The average debt per suburban district is about $29,000. You can find the information on your tax bill in March. On the left-hand side, and all 14 governments, it will tell you exactly what the debt is of that government. And here's a copy of a tax bill. It's a pretty tax bill. It took us a long time to get the graphics down so that people could read it. So, now to the meat. To the meat. We went back to the board. Maria went upstairs to Tony and said, I have another idea. And the idea was, can we ask each of these districts to self-report how many pensioners they have and how many people do they have working? Okay. Yeah. Thank you. So, here we go. And this is an extraordinary list because it starts top to bottom and it tells you what's happening. So, it's pretty self-explanatory. There are, on approximately 1/3 of these governments, there are more people on pension than there are working. So that's the essence of today. This is on the website. You want to skip down here a little? Look, Village of East Dundee. Well, excuse me, I mean, like, where is it? You know, people are always complaining and yelling about the city and the county of Cook. This today is about the suburbs. This is a wake-up call to the suburban Cook County people. I mean, the Village of East Dundee has 86 people on pension and 33 who are working. Really? Village of North Riverside has 116 on pension and 66 working. Dalton Public Library District, does anybody like even know that it exists? I mean, really, seriously? 66 on pension and 19 working. This goes on and on. It goes, I mean, some of them, there's 1 working and 11 on pension. So, you know, you're going to say to me, okay, so I know what the question's going to be. Incidentally, this speech is soon ending. You can go to my website and get all this. It's the holiday. If you're here on job time, you get an extra half hour to shop, okay? So I'm going to answer the questions that you're going to ask me because I promised Jay that this would be the fastest and best City Club speech ever so everybody could get out of here quickly. Hurry up and eat your cookies because it's almost over. So the question is, so what do you do about it? Look, I mean, the Civic Federation, the Illinois Public Policy Institute, I mean, everybody's laid out the solution. The solutions are out there. They're there. The question is, you know, as I say, you can't talk to people who aren't listening. And so what often happens is a lot of this stuff gets pushed down the road because you're in office for 4 years and you don't anticipate that you will run again, or maybe you'll run 8 years, and the problem really doesn't hit until 12 years or 20 years later. I think one of the reasons we've been able to be so effective in my office is because I've been there so long. And I was there, I was on the board. Once you're a legislator on the board, you really understand how the hospital and the highway system and the jail system and the court system all tie in together, and why it is that needs to be worked in such a way that then we come up and we figure out how to fund ourselves. So I can tell you that most people don't pay much attention to the Cook County Treasurer's Office. It just is like, okay, it's the County Treasurer's Office. I can tell you that this office has international recognition. I have gone to China. I visited 6 cities there. I helped China to set up their property tax system, which is very interesting. They not only were interested in our property tax system, but they were also interested in my knowledge of medical systems and networking them, because they actually don't have a count on their population. So the way to get a count on their population is to figure out who comes into the hospital. And that's how they are determining who's in the population. So I've also done we've had 87 countries, that's a lot, 87 countries and consulates have come in to see our financial systems, which are state-of-the-art. And it goes without saying that, I mean, I have been instrumental, not in saving, but, you know, working with the IMF and my compatriots in Greece who, you want to talk about somebody, you can't talk to somebody who's not listening. I mean, I can say that, but I mean, that's a pretty tough nut to crack because the systems are available. I can tell you we had a finance minister from another country in once, and we were showing him a great bidding system that we have. You know, on Wednesday nights, we say we have 300 million. We tell 400 banks we have 300 million. And at 9 o'clock in the morning, a switch literally gets turned on. And all the banks from everywhere come in, but they see what the other one is bidding. And at the end of 20 minutes, the switch goes off, the money gets set out simultaneously as the 110% collateral's coming in. So I bring this finance minister in from a very well-known country in Europe, and he said, I've heard you've got a great bidding system. He said, I want to see it. I said, sure, come on, sit down. So we brought him in during the auction. He sits there for 20 minutes. At the end of 20 minutes, he looks at me, he says, you know what? We really don't need that system. He said, how do you steal with a system like that? Anyway, so finally, the other question that people ask me, because I have to tell you, I mean, there are days in government where it's a very stressful job. I mean, it's a job where you're dealing with people's lives in a lot of ways. It's very painful. Michael Lee's here and Beverly are here who really do a great job of working the counter. But I have to tell you, when 85 and 86-year-old people show up at the counter crying about the fact that their bill went up $100 and they bring in their prescriptions and their Social Security checks and they're crying because they just can't do it anymore, it's heartbreaking. It's heartbreaking. So customer service is the toughest part of this job. And for me, it's the toughest part of this job because you're dealing with people's lives. And it's oftentimes seniors who are having the most difficulty. So people say to me, how do you handle it? You know, I mean, everybody has a way of handling it. So I'm going to show you how I handle it. I do aerial yoga. So this is my finale. You get to see my aerial yoga, and thank you very much. This is called Giselle pose. It's actually a ballerina pose. Is that good? Pretty good? That's how I handle it. Thank you.
Is that unbelievable? It's just great. Tremendous.
You like the pose better than the speech, right?
We have staff here, so if anybody has any questions that you'd like the treasurer to answer, just hold up your blue form and we'll come around and pick them up.
So I have a question. How soon do you want to get out of here? Merry Christmas, everybody.
Wait a minute, we do have a couple questions. Hold on, Maria. Hold
You
on.
do?
Absolutely.
Oh, okay.
One was, what can other elected officials learn from your approach to managing and leading in a public office?
Okay, so I mean, this is, you know, everybody tries their best, and so people have different problems. But I can tell you what I did. Every time there was a piece of paper, and by the way, I would not want to work for me. Because every time I saw a piece of paper, I would go to that person and say, get rid of it. Come back and tell me how to get rid of it. The other thing that has made a major impact in my office is, of the 70 people that I have left, and I'm intimately involved with those 70 people, every day at 5 o'clock, I get a memo from all 70 telling me exactly what they did that day, down to the cashier, how many payments did they process, down to the IT department, which project they're working on, if they're on schedule. The great moral for me in managing well is to stop talking. You cannot conduct your day by talking to everybody that works for you. It's confusing for them, it's confusing for you. So if you give them the opportunity at the end of every day to take 15 or 20 minutes and write up what they did in a fashion. They can also ask you any questions that they want and submit it to you. You can read it quickly. You can see what's going on in your office, and you can stop the conversation that really they didn't want to have with you anyway.
Very good.
Yep.
Thank you. We have a couple questions here. This is from Steve Abbey with the Huntington Bank. Steve, where are you?
He's-
Right over there.
Yeah, yeah.
With the big rise in property taxes, is there a monthly payment plan available to homeowners to ease the increased burden?
It's 1.5 a month. Yeah, it's 1.5 a month. But there are a lot of people who like that. There are 225,000 people every payment cycle that do not pay on time and want to pay the 1.5 a month. They've been doing it, I mean, you'd be astonished, they've been doing it for 30 years. Some of these homeowners, they just do it for 30 years. What's really interesting is the big guys. You see some of these 10, 12, $13 million tax bills, they don't get paid on time because they would rather hold the 13 million and invest it. They've got some place they can make more than 1.5 a month, and they'll come in at the end, the very, very end, and pay it.
Interesting.
Yep.
Very good. This is from Charlie Gardner of Roosevelt University. Why does the electronic version of our tax bill say, printed copies of this information may not be used as a tax bill?
Why?
Charlie?
Okay, yeah. Because the mortgage companies, no fault to any of the bankers in the room, they got a copy of the tax bill and they printed it online and they bring it in instead of paying the $5. So the mortgage companies and the banks, instead of paying the $5, they went someplace, they Xeroxed it, and they said, this is an original. So my people are trained to know that it's the wrong thing. You can't Xerox it and come in and get out from paying under your $5 because we need the $9.5 million so we don't have to go upstairs and get the money.
And those entities can also not pay online, is that right? Or they can't pay $1 per...
No, the online payment, there's a dollar processing fee that we don't get. Chase gets it. That's just the cost of doing business, and that's legislatively set.
Multiple property payers can't use that anyway. They can't save $4 by doing that. Right?
No,
They can't avoid the $5 charge to you by paying online.
no, they can't. They can't because we, at the end of every run, we can tell who's cheating. And we just call them up and say, you cheated. And say, you owe us, you owe us 300, you owe us 400, you owe us 500, it adds up. And people always cheat, but we always catch them.
So you don't want to be called by Treasurer Pappas and be told, you're cheating, Charlie. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this $5 fee, is that something you instituted?
Yeah, we
And
went to
has it ever-
Springfield.
Have
We
you ever
went to
considered
Springfield.
raising the fee, or?
No, I don't want to raise it. We went to Springfield and we got the legislation passed, and actually it works very well for the banks because they don't have to come in and look for duplicate bills, and now we're giving them all kinds of reports that they never got before. So Chase or Bank of America, they can call us up and they say, here's 100,000 literally of our customers. Can you tell us who's delinquent? And we send them a report for free. So that's all part of the $5 fee. So actually, we have better records than they do. Our records are better than they do because the way the industry works, people are buying and selling mortgages. They're buying and selling mortgages. And that's the reason sometimes for these duplicate payments, you'll get 2 mortgage companies paying on 1 PIN.
Very good.
Yep.
And we have one last question. The recent vote to merge 2 county offices,
Yeah.
what effect will that have on your operation, if any?
Listen,
Yes.
I'm 68 years old. Nothing affects me. Seriously.
You're booked to come back here in 2031.
I'll be back in 2031. I'll be 94 years old.
Well, Jack,
Thank
we
you.
have our fishbowl. Don't leave yet. We have one last